come on, I gotta get to breath work.
And it was the cultiest thing I've ever done.
Did you do it?
I did.
What? Have you ever seen a UFO?
And my partner turned into a gray alien.
Really?
How do you be funny?
Is this a gift from God?
You're a healer.
I've been called a shaman.
What you're making fun of in your videos, how much of that is coming into your life in a serious way?
When it's 11:11 on the clock, I take that as a sign every single time, as you should. Okay?
If you're in the spiritual community, and if you're a Skylife viewer, then you likely are, you've probably come across Brent Pella's videos.
What's up? My name is Lake Travis, and I've been manifesting for the past 6 months.
I just love how Brent pokes fun at some of the most absurd parts of this wild community that are all too real. Like, I watch his videos and I'm like, yup. #relatable. If you've ever been a part of an intention setting ceremony that was just a little too extra, or you've encountered that one wild wookie guy at a festival that is offering to heal your chakras, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yo, what's up, MTV? My name is Cody, but my festival name is Waterfall Muffin.
Brent is turning these classic moments that I feel like I experience in my everyday life into viral comedy gold.
You don't even look present. You're past.
You probably think cacao is just chocolate.
Not even a sound bath could clean you up.
So in this interview, we dive into the ridiculousness of the spiritual community, Brent's journey as a comedian and a creator. We talk about psychedelics and plant medicine, aliens, and so much more. And before we dive in, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It really supports us to continue making these videos for you. And without further ado, let's get into this conversation with Brent Pella. We're rocking and rolling.
Hell yeah.
Should we set an intention?
Let's set an intention.
Let's just take a deep breath in and an exhale. And calling upon our angels, guides, benevolent ancestors, divine source. And may this interview be full of laughter and fun and stories and magic. Woohoo!
Oh, achoo.
You know, there's been so many times when I've been in intention setting situations, and I think to myself, I'm in a Brent Pella video right now.
Yeah.
I literally said that on my birthday. I did a whole ceremony with my friends, and it was a circle, and we're setting intention. We have the cacao, and I said, guys, we are in a Brent Pella video.
My real intention is to hold space for anyone.
I already said that intention.
What are you, the intention police?
If you were paying attention to my intention, we wouldn't be experiencing this tension.
I feel like I'm in videos sometimes just in being in certain settings. Like, it's funny sometimes. It really is. That intention circle video I did a couple months ago was very much inspired by people trying to, like, visibly trying to one-up each other. Or, like, not, like, I saw people in this cacao ceremony circle, like, not paying attention to anybody, but just kind of like muttering to themselves as if they were like practicing theirs. And it's so anti what the whole energy of the circle is supposed to be about. So yeah, that was very much inspired by real life.
It's very relatable if you're in the spiritual community, if you're in this realm. I think that if you can't recognize the absurdity of it, like, you're blind to the reality that some of this stuff is so absurd, but at the same time, it's so real.
Yeah, and you can still honor it. You can still honor the authenticity of an experience or of a practice and recognize some of the silly nature of it. I saw that in a big way, actually, my first ayahuasca ceremony. I don't know if you've ever heard of ayahuasca or if you guys have ever heard of what that is.
I don't know if we've heard of that.
Yeah, I'll explain it later. I'm an expert. The ceremony leader was Tony Moss, who's this incredible musician and very well experienced ceremony facilitator and leader. And somebody, like, playing music in the circle messed up, like they struck a wrong chord, and he turned it into a whole joke. And this was like deep in the ceremony, and I was so not expecting that. Like, I thought it was gonna be like awkward, and he said something like, "Uh-oh, don't let the demons in," or something silly like that. And everybody just broke out laughing. And it was kind of the first time I had seen somebody of status in a space like that use humor and like create laughter during such a deep moment, a deep experience. So I thought that was really cool. And it kind of validated a lot of the thinking that I had toward using humor or like comedy toward space or experience
Yeah.
like that.
So important. I want to ask you more about your experience with psychedelics and plant medicine. But before we get into that, I do want to ask you how real this spiritual world is for you. Like what you're making fun of in your videos and poking fun at, whether it's smoking sage or setting intentions, like how much of that is coming into your life in a serious way?
Yeah, it's always been there. So I was raised by a single mom, and she was kind of a hip. She was a deadhead, hence the sweater. And she had me really young. So we were like homies when I was growing up. And she brought me to Grateful Dead shows. She brought me to music festivals like Reggae on the River up in Northern California. We lived in Humboldt County for a couple years. We had a compost pile. We went foraging for blackberries. Like I was that little kid, right? Running around with a tie-dye shirt and no pants on. So she kind of instilled this sense of spirituality, I guess you could say, from an early age, but it was more like just a sense of like mindfulness and connection with nature and the universe. And she was raised Italian Catholic, but she didn't put that on me. She encouraged me to learn about all different types of religions. And so I had that from a very early age. And then I found sports and hip hop through high school and college, but I always had a sense of spirituality that kind of laid a bit dormant, or I had my own little practice. I would say little affirmations to myself. And then after college, I started going to transformational festivals with a close friend of mine, for the first being Lightning in a Bottle, and then others and big like gathering type parties and different events within like that conscious community world. And all of those things started to reawaken that sense of spirituality that I had, because I saw people doing all of the things that I have been thinking or like saying to myself, or like little micro practices through my life. They were like doing outwardly. They were talking about all these concepts that I had only thought about but never really researched. Concepts like, we're all one, or like, what is source, or what does the flower of life mean? Like all these little questions that I had or held on to in high school and college. Now I was seeing all of these people talking about them actively.
Yeah, the conversations that you hear at these
Yeah.
festivals are absolutely fascinating and so entertaining.
Super entertaining.
We're
Yeah.
talking about sacred geometry and the pyramids being a power plant for
And the
interdimensional
Pleiadians,
travel.
where
The Pleiadians, the
at,
Lemurians.
dude. Am I a light being?
Yeah,
I
are
don't know.
you?
I don't know.
Which one would you be if
I
you
would
were?
be light being 367 Zirton. I mean, they're the most flexible.
So I've been told most flexible. I like that. Are you very flexible?
No, but I'm working on it.
You're working on
Yeah.
it. Okay. So you're aspiring to be.
Yeah, I'm aspiring to be.
Yeah, I've been told that I'm Lemurian. And
Lemurian, okay.
Yes, that's what I've been told.
I'm seeing a
Unsure.
medium in
you are?
next week. Yeah. I'm
Okay.
seeing a medium. I have a this week on Friday. I'm seeing a medium in Austin. Yeah.
Okay.
So to answer your question
yes,
real quick,
yes,
just
yes.
to cap that off, I give my whole backstory just to that little piece of a backstory to answer that question, because a lot of people might see some of my spiritual video content and not really know and have that same question. But I've been told it comes across pretty well that I am like, I do understand what I'm talking about or what I'm making fun of.
Yeah, you're part of the community.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
much so.
I'm not just an outsider throwing rocks at
No, you
the
live and
yurt,
breathe the
I'm
world.
in the yurt.
You are in the yurt.
I'm in the yurt.
100%.
I'm not always in the yurt,
Yeah.
but I step into the yurt quite often.
Right.
I meditate in the yurt. I'll have a snack in the yurt, but then I'll step outside of the yurt to go to a Drake concert. But
Okay.
then I'll come back to the yurt
Love
to
it.
meditate again.
Best of both worlds.
Yeah, yeah. So that's like a real paraphrasing of what my
Right.
spiritual path has been.
Yeah, you definitely speak the language. You watch your videos, and I feel excited when I watch them, because I'm like, wow, this is my life.
Cool.
In a fun
Yeah.
way, and it helps me make fun of myself,
Cool.
which I love. I think it's really important to have that self-awareness and
Yeah.
bring humor to like the ridiculousness of some of these topics. I want to share the story of how we met, because I think
Yeah.
this is a great story, and it's a backstory that I haven't told you. We met in Meow Wolf at Arcadia Festival in Vegas. And that night, I was with my partner at the time, and it was his birthday. And we were with one of his other friends at the casino, having the casino moment. And we're we have to get to Meow Wolf. Like, we have to get there because we wanted to have a night there. It was our last night. The time is ticking, though. We're like spending hours at the casino. We're like, we need to get there. And finally, we're on the way in the car. We took a little microdose of mushrooms, and we're on the way. And I'm like, damn, we're only going to have an hour. Shit. Like, I wish we had more time. And then I looked down at my phone. It was 2 a.m. and then all of a sudden it was 1 a.m. And I was like, what? What just happened to time? And I realized it was daylight savings time.
Yeah.
And the clocks turned back. Yeah. And I was on mushrooms. I was like, we just manipulated time. And I was so excited. We go into Meow Wolf. We have now 2 hours. And I run into you. And I was like, oh my God, Brent Pella. And I was so like weirdly, like, you know, when you have like social anxiety on substances, and I was like fangirling you. And I was like, I don't know how to act around him. Like, what the fuck? So that's the backstory. And now here we are. We connected at Burning Man. And here we are. And I'm really happy to, get to know you more.
Me too. Yeah. That dude, being at Arcadia when the time shifted was such a trip. To be at a music festival when that happens. Yeah. Because we forgot about it too. And we looked down at the phone like, what? Is this a gift from God?
It was that night.
Yeah.
It felt that way. And then it was such a cool environment to be in that space where everybody's like dressed up in their avatar. And it's all the people from the festival in the middle of the night in this immersive experience. I ended up getting so into that world. Like I was deep into the lore. I was like calling the phone lines, like joining the resistance. I was in
the Omega Mart?
Yes. Yeah. I was in it.
It was super cool.
So good.
Super cool. And they have that at a couple places. I think there's one in Denver.
I want to go.
Man, it's nuts. We only had like an hour and a half in there, but we didn't get to explore the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's a trip.
Speaking of connecting at Burning Man, how was your experience this
year? So fun. Burning Man is so fun. You know, it really lives up to every cliche, but then it just so breaks past that barrier. So we went last year, the year before, and it was a nightmare. It was the rain one where everybody got stuck in the mud. And a lot of people were like, oh, we just embraced the challenge and it was so beautiful, like in its own way. And when people ask me, I'm like, it sucked. We did not have a good time. Aww. And we tried, but it's hard when everything dies and your food goes bad and you got health issues and then you got more health issues and then it was not fun. But we saw what it could be, and we're still grateful that we had that experience for sure. This past year was amazing.
Next level.
So cool. Just like the crew we were with and the people we met, and I did a couple shows that were really fun. Which I saw one of them at Soundgarden, which was and it was epic. nice to do so comedy out there during daylight when people are like just kind of waking up and have some energy. But Burning Man is beautiful. It's such a creative, wild place. I think it's a bucket list thing for everybody. It's the biggest party in the world, right? Because it's 60 to 70,000 people for a full week in the desert with basically no rules. And it's just the most creative place.
It's been like 2 weeks.
Every time.
And I still am coughing up dust.
Dust? Yeah.
Actually, like I cannot get it out of my lungs.
The inside of my nose was like cemented. I had so much dust in there. I was picking it out with like a toothpick. Yeah, it was bad. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I got caught in that last dust storm the last night for like 3 hours.
Oh, we left on Sunday, so we missed it.
I was stuck, lost, straight up lost with one of my friends. We had to find rangers to get us back.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. But other than that, I mean, even that was a beautiful experience.
One challenge is nice.
No, 100%.
One little challenge. We had one challenge out there.
Yeah, you need to have those challenges. You need challenges. That's what makes the plot more exciting. Like, I don't know, it's just part of the experience. It's you want the roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
And I definitely had that. I want to talk to you about your experience with psychedelics and plant medicine, because this is an area of my life that I'm just venturing into. I think the morning that I saw you, that was the day after I had done a full dose of acid for the first time in my whole life. And my whole 20s, I just turned 30. My whole 20s, I felt this intuition around staying sober for the most part and exploring my consciousness naturally through breathwork, meditation, different modalities, and then feeling like later the substance use and the medicine use would start to come into play. And now I'm feeling that call. And as soon as I turned 30, it was like, okay, it's on. Like, you really anchored your consciousness. You know, you've explored these realms naturally. Now let's do the drugs.
Cool. Yeah.
And so I'm curious about, like, from your experience, what that journey has been like for you, and then any advice you have for someone like me who's then starting to go into that realm with the desire to open up consciousness in a deeper way and to understand reality on a new level.
Cool. Yeah. Advice. I hesitate to give like advice because I'm still very new in my own journey and relationship with all of these things. So the best advice I feel like that I am most suited to give is to just learn as much as you can. Follow any shred of curiosity you have and just learn. There's so much information out there. There's so many stories, so many different practices, so many different accomplishments, so many different levels that people have gotten to with the way that they think or interact with other people, that's been inspired by using different substances or working with different things. And there's always more to learn. You can learn from old stories of like Marina Sabina or Albert Hoffman to newer stories of what Andrew Huberman's study at Stanford with Dr. Williams on the use of ibogaine with veterans and how that literally changes people's physical brain structures. So there's so much to learn and take from. So that would be the best advice I think I could give. I didn't smoke weed through high school. First time I smoked weed was when I was 18. It gave me a headache. Second time I smoked weed was at age 21. And I was never a big like cannabis user, and so definitely never touched anything else until after college when I started going to festivals. A friend and me took a full tab of LSD about 8 years ago, and that was actually my first big psychedelic experience. So I'm still in what I believe is like the first chapter of this. But it was insane. It was so wild. It was like it blew every preconceived like expectation I had for the psychedelic experience totally out of the water. It was the funniest night of my life. It was so silly. I've never laughed harder than that night. You know, psychedelics for me, there are two parts of my relationship that I really think about a lot. One is creative, and the other is like personal growth. So creatively, I've worked with different substances for different purposes. I've microdosed LSD a little bit, and I've done a lot of writing. I do a microdose protocol with psilocybin, and I also do writing or editing, and it kind of helps me lock in and focus, and also allows my brain to think differently about whatever the project is that I'm working on. Like if I'm writing a character video or a longer feature script that I'm working on, I'll think about the scenes or the character or the dialogue in different ways that my conscious or that my sober mind doesn't really think of, and like really silly ways. It's helped a lot creatively. And then microdosing psilocybin has been a really big part of my personal growth, just managing like stress and anxiety and learning how to navigate different ways of thinking better, different patterns of thinking, trying to interrupt patterns of thinking, because I deal with stress and anxiety just a ton, as much as a lot of people do. I've always been trying to figure out new ways to manage those things and to manage like negative mind chatter, self-doubt, self-criticism, and turn that into like constructive criticism or some type of constructive pattern of thinking. So I use psychedelics and work with psychedelics for both of those functions. And I found a lot of benefit. Yeah. I feel like I'm a pretty spiritual person, you know? I'm a pretty spiritual guy, as you can tell from my beaded bracelet, okay? This is the universal symbol for I call my drugs medicine, and this is who I am, okay? We don't go to parties anymore, we go to gatherings, all right? We don't take showers, we take sound baths. Now, you know? Sir, you ever had a sound bath before? Didn't think so.
Being a comedian and your path in comedy, and then all of the self-doubt that you have to overcome to do that specific job. I feel like it's, for me, like that's my biggest fear would be like doing stand-up comedy to try and make people laugh. I was told when I was growing up, I'm like, this is my trauma, is my family's really funny. Like I have a big family. It's an Italian American family.
Cool.
Everybody's hilarious. My dad's hilarious. My mom's really funny. My brothers, I have 3 brothers. The running joke for them in my family growing up that I was not the funny one. Like I wasn't funny. And my parents would just be like, you're just not funny.
Oh,
I know.
awful.
Isn't that fucked up?
Oh my God. Yeah.
Horrible. So I went through life like wanting to be funny, like feeling like how do I be funny? Like how do when I try to be, it doesn't land. When I am not trying to be funny, then I feel like people are laughing at things I didn't expect. So I have questions for you around like how do you be funny, or do you just don't try? Is it natural for you? Is it a natural talent? You know.
So I had a conversation with a buddy of mine about this exact topic.
Okay.
And I don't know how to be funny. I know how to try to be funny, and there's a concept in improv comedy that I think plays really well to this question, and that concept is don't try to be funny, just commit to the moment.
Commit to the bit.
Yeah, commit to the bit. Commit to the moment, commit to the scene, commit to your character. Because in an improv scene, you have 2 people playing together in a character-based relationship. And the ultimate kind of goal of scene work and improv is to make the other person look like the funniest person in the world. And if that's your goal, then the other person's doing it too, and then you're both going to shine, right? So the goal isn't to look funny yourself. It's to commit as best you can. Now, how that relates to life, I think it's an authenticity thing, maybe, is at least a part of it. If you're actively trying to be funny, then that may not come off as authentic as when you're not trying, but you're just being authentic, and whatever comes ends up being funny. So
when it comes into play in terms of you're writing a sketch or you're writing a show, you're obviously working with material that
you're trying to be funny. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's not like real life
it's the
conversational.
Art form. Right.
Yeah. That's like, all right, how am I going to be funny in this scene? All right, well, I've got a guy sitting with his friend at a picnic table. One friend is really into drugs. The other one just wants to like go listen to music. How can I make this really funny? This is a scene I was working on just the other day. There's ways and tools and like structure to that because you're trying to accomplish a task and put something funny on the page.
When you were first starting out in comedy, did you feel like you were naturally good at it, or did you have to bomb so many times? Okay, I want to talk about that because something that I've been on recently is embracing cringe and just like fully just leaning into, okay, we're all cringy. Like I am cringy at many times. Just like how can I just fully accept that and lean into that? And it's something that, I support a lot of creators, and I have a community called the Soul Creator, and I guide people through how to unleash their expression on social media and get over the fear of judgment and get over the fear of how they're being perceived, which stops so many people from sharing what they actually want to share and saying what they actually want to say. And so a whole part of that is embracing the cringe. So how have you embraced cringe in your career, and how has that led to you being able to fully unleash your expression?
When I first started doing stand-up, I was not very popular in the comedy world. I wasn't hated or anything, but I wasn't making friends within the stand-up comedy scene at the rate at which other people were. And I think a big part of that is because I was doing a style of stand-up comedy that was kind of the opposite of what a lot of people in town were doing. Back then, a lot of people were trying to make each other laugh more than they were trying to make an audience laugh. And I was always trying to make an audience laugh. I didn't really care about making comedians laugh because they're not the ones that are going to buy tickets to my shows. That was kind of my mentality at the beginning. So in doing that, I got less laughs and less positive reaction from audiences in that open mic scene when I was first starting out. But I just told myself, that I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it for audience members, right? But also I was a little naive.
Okay.
And I think the naivete played a huge role for me, and also plays a big role for a lot of people when they're first starting off as
100%.
creators. And I think you need naivete, which is interesting and kind of trippy, because if you think I need naivete, so I'm going to be naive, well, then you're not being naive, because you just consciously
Meta
put yourself
aware.
into
Right.
a space of being naive. That's not being naive, and now you're like, oh, look. Sorry, I macrodosed before this. So I had like a shred of that, and I think a lot of creators, definitely a lot of comedians, but a lot of creators who are eventually successful have naivete at the beginning, because they think that they're great, and they're not. I sucked
No, I
when I
can
started.
so relate to this with my videos.
Yeah.
Like, I look back 10 years ago and I'm like,
And you're like, oh,
this
God.
is garbage.
Right.
Why did I think this is okay to publicly share?
100%. And that'll just keep happening. I have
Yeah.
stuff from 2 years ago, from a year ago, that I look at like, oh, God, I put that out a year ago?
Yeah.
And that's a good thing, though, because it shows growth.
Definitely.
And it shows creative evolution and creative progression, right? Because you're looking back at a style that you no longer do, or that you're looking back at a style that you've progressed into a different space. So to answer your question about the cringe factor, I just kind of like, I was inspired by a lot of the comedians I was listening to on podcasts, comedians like Joe Rogan, comedians like Fahim Anwar, who's hilarious, comedians like Bill Burr and Dave Chappelle and all these guys, these huge like titans, were talking about how awful they did when they first started, and how all their bomb stories when they first started. And I just kind of like integrated that to the point where if I didn't get laughs on stage, I didn't let it bother me, because I was like, you know what? I'm on my way. I'm doing the same thing those guys did. I bombed today at Flappers in Burbank, in my 7 minutes. I got one chuckle from a middle-aged woman, and it wasn't even toward me. She was laughing at something the waiter did. All right. That's a good thing, because that means I'm doing the same thing and I'm getting the same results as Dave Chappelle used to, So it was
100%.
kind of that I in my mind, I used that like cringe or like failure moment as actually kind of a success, because it meant that I was on the right path, which is like really weird to think of. But
It's a really beautiful perspective, and I think it is such a necessary part of pursuing your dreams, like pursuing what you want to do in life. If you're creative, if you're an artist, you have a vision for something, it's such an uncertain path. It's such a it's the Wild West out there, and you have to be willing to fall on your face. You have to be willing to look stupid, to be cringe, to just put it out there. And then when you put it out there, you start to accept that part of yourself, and it starts to not become that big of a deal anymore. And then by it not being that big of a deal, you build confidence. And then you just say, fuck it, like, what else am I going to do? Am I going to hide in my shell for the rest of my life and not pursue what's calling me? No. Yeah. There's not another option.
Yeah, and for me it was also like a trust, like a faith thing. I always loved Jim Carrey. He was my top dude that I've always looked up to. And he's a pretty spiritual guy. And he talked about having faith and like holding on to faith and having faith over hope, right? Because he said in some speech he gave once, something along the lines of hope, you jump over the fire hoping not to get burned, but if you jump over the fire with faith, then you hold in your heart that you will not get burned, right? And so I remember hearing that early on and always holding on to that sense of like faith that things will work out. And I still do, because I have faith that things will work out at some point. And I think that's important too, is for anybody in creative or in any part of life. If you're following what you feel is a calling, I think it's important to really hold on tight to some sense of faith in it.
It's also scientifically proven. There's a book called Real Magic. I don't know if you've heard of this book, but it's basically like a comprehensive review of all of the research on how belief affects outcomes. Yeah. How actual faith is impacting outcomes and how reality unfolds. It's fascinating. And I do feel like belief is a necessary ingredient to success and creating the life that you want to create. I love that quote, the Jim Carrey one. Have you done Tony Robbins? Are you like Tony Robbins?
I love Tony Robbins.
I love Tony Robbins.
I haven't been to an event. I would love to.
So I went to Unleash the Power Within in LA many years ago, and they have you walk on hot coals. They have you
Did you
walk.
do it?
I did. And it was the cultiest thing I've ever done. I'm not kidding you. For like 2 hours before, maybe 3 to 4, I don't even remember. For many hours before, you are programming your brain to be able to do this. And he's walking you through all these exercises. You're doing breath work. You're hyping yourself up. You're repeating cool moss. And then the masses of people from the conference all walk to the fire, to the coals together, chanting, yes, yes, yes.
What?
Cool moss. It's the cultiest, coolest shit. And then you walk over the fucking coals, and I didn't feel it.
No.
It's amazing. That's why he's the GOAT. Come on, you can't even, like, I know Tony Robbins controversial, whatever, but like, come on, you can't
the controversies
even touch
bullshit.
him.
I love him.
Me
I'm
too.
a fan. 100%.
I'm such a fan.
Yeah. I Am Not Your Guru was awesome.
So good.
Bobby Kennedy asked him to be his vice president, and he said no. And I think if he had said yes, we'd be in a much different place politically.
Oh, I will live in that reality in my dreams.
Dude, that's so cool. You did it.
Yeah.
Cool moss.
And
it didn't burn at all?
No.
How? That's so
I don't know.
wild.
And it's a long stretch.
And it's hot coals.
It's hot. It's burning coals. You're basically walking on fire.
Did anybody get burned?
No. I didn't see anybody.
Damn.
Not that I know of.
Damn.
But that takes faith. That takes actual belief. But you're training your mind leading up to it.
Right.
I've also done extreme cold therapy with Wim Hof, and that's
cool. Similar
mindset. But with Wim, he throws you in. He's like, we're not even going to train you. Just go jump in the river now and survive.
Nuts. I signed up for a Wim Hof breathing class once. And I really want to do it again. But I signed up for this breathing workshop because I was at a point maybe a year or so ago where I was super stressed. I was overwhelmed. I was giving myself way too much to do. And so I signed up for this breathwork class. And I was looking forward to it for weeks. The day comes and I wake up late. I'm running late. I have a call. Everything's late. I'm sprinting to the car. I forget something upstairs. I run back upstairs. I'm like, God, I got to make it to this breathwork class. I'm late. I grab my things. I grab my coffee. I grab my whatever I forgot, the keys. I run back down to my car. I peel out of the garage. I make a wrong turn. I flip a U-turn. I'm running like 10 minutes late on the GPS. My get gas light goes on, so I got to get gas. So I turn it. I see a Shell station up ahead, but there's a guy to the right, and he's trying to turn right, but there's like not enough room in between him and the curb where I got to go up, to get into the gas station. And so I'm honking at him, and I'm like mad. I'm like, come on, I got to get to breath work. And I hit the gas, and I swerve to the right of him, and I pull up into the Shell parking lot, but my back tire clips the curb, flat tire.
Bro, it's a
Missed
proper
the
debacle.
whole
No.
workshop. Yeah, because I had to wait for a tow truck to come and it was like such a lesson that I couldn't even make it to the breathwork workshop because I wasn't breathing properly. I wasn't even ready. It was like it was such an initiation. And I just thought it was so silly that I'd sprinted, and it wasn't until the tire popped that I realized how fast I was moving, and I realized like how fast my brain was moving, what my heart rate was. I was breathing through my mouth, like a caveman, and it was.
This story is inspiring me to deep breathe right now.
So just make sure you're breathing. Don't miss your breathwork class because you're not breathing.
Wow, it is. That's a proper initiation. It's the universe just being like, "Bitch, slow down.
Yeah,
take a moment, take a breath."
Class.
Yeah. Are you ready now?
I think so.
Okay.
I would like to do a Wim Hof breathwork workshop.
There's
a lot
awesome.
I want to do. I want to experience a lot of that. Like I said, I'm seeing the medium this week, so that'll be fun. I've spoken to an animal communicator once about
I've been
my
wanting
dead
to do a
dogs.
video on that. How was that
I'll
experience?
give you a guy if you want
got
to
a guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was cool. He was pretty on point with a lot of what he said, and then he started going down a weird direction that didn't really make sense. I was with my mom on the call because they were her dogs, and it was. I'd give it. That experience was like a 6 out of 10, maybe a 5.7 out of 10.
Okay.
And then I spoke with a palm reader when I was 10 with my dad, and I'm not close with my dad at all. Like we don't really have a good relationship. And at the time, she was like, "Oh, you must be really close. I think you were brothers in a past life." And I was 10 years old. Like, what? I'm not this motherfucker's brother. So I haven't had like the best experiences with people in those fields. Yeah. Which is kind of why I want to do it a little more, to see who else is out there. Because not everybody's on point.
Yeah,
not
it's-
everybody's for real.
It's like there's a lot of therapists, and there's maybe like 10% are really good, and 90% will fuck you up more than
Yeah,
they'll help you.
totally.
It's like the same with all of these intuitives and healers, and I've had my fair share of horrible experiences with different healers, and I've had life-changing experiences.
Yeah.
It is quite a realm to navigate in this world.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I do on my channel. That's what Skylife is all about.
Yeah, it's cool.
Following curiosity around these topics and seeing what happens. And I still, even after an experience that has been very powerful, my analytical brain will start to question it.
Yeah.
Like, what was that? Was that just my imagination making shit up?
Yeah.
My
cynical brain goes like it turns on quick
Yeah.
around stuff like that.
Like when you're in the space and it feels so real and so powerful, and then later you come out of it and you're like, wait, what was
Right.
that? Because I've had these experiences in sober settings, like the light language video that I made was like this big moment where I was like, wait, I never in a million years expected I would start speaking light language, what they call light language or another language. And then all of a sudden it's like coming so strong. It's super emotional. I'm having this like full on psychedelic trip sober just from like a sound experience and meditation my friend guided me through. And then it's like changed my life. But then my analytical brain is still questions what it is.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So how do you respond to your cynical brain?
I think
Or
it's
analytical?
just
Mine's
it's,
cynical.
yours is cynical. yeah.
Mine
Mine's
is like,
just-
I
yeah.
don't think that's real.
Mine's the inner skeptic that's just, I think it's very healthy and important to have that.
Yeah.
I think it's a friend that's looking out for me, but I don't want to let it prevent me from having experiences and having my world, my reality expand. I don't want that to prevent my mind from expanding.
Right.
So I think it's kind of like my relationship to ego I've been developing and working through, and I just see it as a part of the human experience. And if I can befriend that part of myself, then it can be on my team, and it doesn't have to be in the driver's seat, but it can be like in the back being like, yo, like watch out for that.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally.
And I think it's important to have all of these different parts of yourself like working as a team. And that's the inner work, is like integrating how that happens and like who is leading the way. And I would like for my heart to lead the way, my soul, and that like inner, like whatever that is, that inner thing, that unspeakable, like the thing that you tap into in these moments where you realize, whoa, like life is so magical, that deep love, like that's what I want leading my life. And these other parts can be just there to like make sure I don't like jump off a cliff.
Yep. Yeah. Do you work with psychedelics a lot now in this?
I've just started that process.
Pretty new. Okay, cool.
And that journey, like I said, it's just been a very much a process of being cautious, or not hesitant, but just like intentional, and just wanting to do all the breath work and the different natural modalities first, to see like what I can open up and reach those states naturally. And now that I feel like I've gotten a good foundation of that, I'm like, and I'm just too curious to not want to
Totally
do the drugs
Yeah.
and see what happens. And so I'm just starting that journey. I'm feeling the call right now, and the opportunities are coming for it. So I'm kind of just listening and
Cool.
being guided in that way.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listening to it is important, and not forcing it is important for sure.
Totally.
Yeah. Hey, welcome in. Can I interest you in having some incense blown directly into your mouth? Yeah, I was on a date with a benevolent witch last night. She was telling me all about it. Feed me your magical info, dude.
So you have a lot of different characters in your videos.
Yeah.
I'm curious, which of the characters do you feel like is most close to who you are?
Oh man, they're all a weird piece of me. I feel like sometimes I feel like these characters exist in like alternate realities, and I'm just tuning in to pick up what they're doing and then facilitating that through to your screen. But they're all kind of a piece of me, except for the politicians. Politician impressions are
Gavin Newsom isn't a piece of
Gavin
you.
Newsom's not a piece of me. No. But yeah, it's fun to create perspectives that are like a shred off of what I think of different things. And you know, I do this like CrossFit guy that's super into like weird sexual innuendos and he's super jacked, or this dude Bryler from Sacramento who's like an amalgamation of everybody I grew up with, or different spiritual characters, which are basically just real life people that I know, but they all have a little bit of me and a little bit of my perspective toward the world and the way things are, and it's kind of a sarcastic perspective, but it's fun. Doing all these different people, get them out of my brain. It makes me feel a little healthier in the mind. You know what's crazy to me?
What's crazy to you?
Humans have so much trust in their government.
Oh my God.
It's actually like kind of sad.
It's kind of pathetic.
This alien character that you do.
Yeah.
When did that come through? Was
That's
it a download?
probably
What
the
was
closest
that?
for me.
Okay.
The closest to me. The alien character is probably the closest character to me for sure. And I think that's because I am a Pleiadian.
Right, of course.
That came about. I've always been into space stuff and aliens and alien movies and conspiracies about aliens and UFOs and things like that. And a couple years ago when the Pentagon released these declassified documents about UFOs in our atmosphere and flying around, and they said they are not ours and we don't know if they're human made or not. And that was like public record now. A friend of mine and I got together and decided we needed to offer a bit more than the Pentagon. Let's take that as a prompt and figure out what these aliens would think of humanity if they came to Earth. And it was one of the quickest things I've ever written. So you talk about channeling sometimes, and my version of that is like the rare moment where I can just write a script or some dialogue or a monologue or a scene, and it comes all the way through and there's no edits needed and it's just ready to go. So that happened with the first alien video that we did. It was a mock doc, a fake documentary on what the aliens would say when they come out of hiding on Earth. So that kind of popped online and led to us kind of exploring this bigger world of these two alien characters and what their perspective is toward humanity, which is fun because it allows us to kind of unmask both the absurdities of the human condition and culture.
What's in Reese's Poofs?
Ew! Oh!
Did they do that on purpose?
They must have. Every ingredient in every cereal was poison.
Look what's in these.
And also a lot of the beauty of humanity that maybe people kind of ignore from time to time. So just today we put out a video called Aliens Play Pickleball for the first time. So we did the whole costume. We went out to a pickleball court and just like made fun of pickleball for a while.
This just came out?
Like
oh my
2
gosh,
hours ago.
hot off the press.
Yeah.
I can't wait to watch this.
So that's a fun one because it really like, we always see things through a human perspective toward humanity, whether it's through a woman or a man or a black guy or a white guy or an Asian guy or whatever. It's always through it might be a different lens, but it's always a human lens.
Yeah.
So with this, we're really stoked that people are digging seeing humanity through a different species lens. 'Cause
Yes.
you don't often get that. And it kind of puts a mirror up to humanity in a way.
100%. So this blue alien species, what is the species? Do you
They're
know?
interdimensional.
They're interdimensional.
They project themselves in these physical forms because it's the closest thing that they can get to, which is recognizable for humans. And if they were to show us what they're like in their realm, the human mind wouldn't be able to comprehend it and we would die just from looking at them.
Right.
Yeah.
It has to come in the form of like,
They have to be a humanoid.
Right.
Yeah.
What we think would be an alien is
Right.
how they're coming through.
Right. And that's also how they need to physically form on Earth in order to interact with our 3D realm because they're not in the third dimension in their space.
But
where
this
they're from.
concept, like actually as a true reality to ponder is very interesting.
It is, yeah.
Right?
And I take a lot of real, I didn't make this up on my own. I take pieces
100%.
of stories that I've heard, anecdotes that I've heard, Reddit threads that I've poured over. And I take all these little bits and pieces to create what we've done. Yeah.
Yeah, I've done several videos about aliens and alien abductions and it's like a rabbit hole that never ends. And the more you learn, the less you know, the more confused you get about reality. It's like, what is really going on here? But I do wonder that, like, because in my personal opinion, is there must be several species that are interested in human life and that are, you know, playing with us or experimenting on us, or there's different, you know, species that have been talked about, whether it's the Greys or the Nordics or the starseed systems, the Palladians, the Lemurians, whatever. But yeah, these gray aliens trip me out, and they confuse
seem to be around
me.
a lot.
They confuse me. I'm like, was it ET that made them the way that we, like, people are seeing the Greys and their abductions because of like media, or is that actually their form? You know?
So there's some like art from hundreds of years ago, and even some old like Renaissance or earlier paintings with weird looking entities that some people say are a representation of demons and hell, and other people say no, that's a modern day alien.
Right.
So, and it goes all the way back to, you've looked through the Anunnaki type stuff.
There's like hieroglyphs with actual UFOs.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know which came first, but it seems to be a pattern extending really far back in time, that we've been visited, or that people have had visions or interactions with different crafts or beings or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that it would be, my guess, in my opinion, that has informed humans' belief system over like centuries of time, to the point where today they all look like gray, big-headed aliens with big black eyes, because we've been told over and over and over again, whether it's through firsthand experience or some perception of experience, like a psychedelic trip or a vision or whatever, that this is what they look like. And so now we have that kind of representation of them today.
Yeah, it's when you start looking at the abduction stuff, it gets pretty gnarly pretty quickly.
Have you ever seen a UFO? Like, have you ever felt like you've seen something like that?
I wish that I could say I have. I feel like I've wanted that experience so deeply, and that I had a moment.
I feel like I want it too much.
I know that it's like when you're trying to manifest, you can't be attached.
Yeah,
and I'm too attached.
Way too attached
to seeing a UFO that it's not happening.
It's all I
in
want.
My life.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I recently thought that I saw one, and I was with my friends. It was over the summer, and we had a little witchy ceremony, and we're all laying out in the grass, and the full moon is there, and then we see this light, and it's coming towards us, and it's like, oh my god, it's a UFO, and then it gets closer, it's a plane. I'm like, that's damn story of my life. So I have not had that experience, you know, but I had a weird experience when I was working on a video for my YouTube channel about abductions, and I interviewed this woman who had an abduction story. And she's from this town that there was a mass UFO sighting in 1969, and there was hundreds of people in the town that all saw this craft, and several of the children of that time had abduction stories, and she had multiple over her life, like they kept coming back, and it was very traumatic for her, very, very real, and I did a video about her story, and I was working on that video, and it was very much in my consciousness, and I was doing a lot of the research on abductions, and I was looking into John Mack's work, and he's the Harvard psychiatrist that studied abduction cases for many, many years and has multiple books written about it. And I had a lot of clips of him in my videos, in my video that I was working on, and he kind of has documented like harvesting of human like sexual organs and like eggs and that kind of thing, and like the hybrid experiments of like making hybrid beings, and so all of this is just in my consciousness, and it's just like, oh my god. And that night I was at my partner at the time, I was staying with him, and we were watching Lord of the Rings, and all of a sudden I'm just like getting so emotional at Lord of the Rings. I'm like, wow, I feel like this is just so beautiful, and then all of a sudden I'm like, wait, I feel really high, like why do I feel so high? And then I realized, I'm like, wait, oh my god, I made this dinner with this oil. Okay, it was I I use a lot of olive oil. I
Yeah.
love olive oil,
Same.
especially on salads. I'm just like pouring olive oil, and then I'm racking my brain because I'm like, I feel really, really high. I'm racking my brain, and I'm like, wait, I used the oil from the cabinet, and I was like, was that oil weed oil? He's like, I don't know, you have to ask my housemate. I asked his housemate. He's like, yeah, that was weed oil. So I'm just like, oh fuck, I'm going on a journey.
No.
Okay, then from there, then the hallucinations start, and my partner turned into a gray alien.
Really?
Full on.
Like with your
on,
eyes open, he turned into that.
He turned, in my reality, he was a gray alien.
Whoa.
And then it became this weird erotic situation because I had that in my fields, and I was like, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, I need you to channel the grays right now. And it was such a trip. And then I start thinking, I'm in my high state. I'm like, is this the interdimensional thing everybody's talking about?
Dude.
They're just coming through his consciousness
Yep.
to make love to me, the hybrid alien baby. Is this happening? And then I become sober, and I'm like, I was just high.
Or were you?
Right.
Were you though? Because it might have been it. You don't know.
We don't know how cannabis, the plant, works its
Nope.
ways.
Nope.
Right? We
Nope.
don't know how these plants, we don't know how mushrooms.
We don't know how our own brain works
right?
100%. We don't know why we produce DMT. You know, we don't know all these things.
No.
There's so much we don't know.
So much.
Yeah, that's nuts. I think there are so many alien stories and extraterrestrial stories and abduction stories that it's too much to just disqualify all of them.
100%.
You know, there's so many. And there's so many people whose lives have been like traumatically changed.
Yeah.
I'm such a nerd for all that stuff. There's a whole Reddit thread I'll have to send you, which is the most trustworthy news source for all of these things, where this guy is talking about how he worked in a compartmentalized section of a secret military base studying exobiospheric organisms, EBOs, which are basically like corpses that they recovered from crash sites.
Wow.
And his job was to study the biological functions of the organs of the creature. Somebody else was studying other things. And he wrote this whole thing, and he was using such specific language, and it was so concise, and it was so logical and reasonable and written without bias that people in the comment section were saying, hey, just to let everybody know, I'm a PhD, I've been published, I'm this, and everything this guy is saying, I can't tell you if it's true, but it's correct. Like he's explaining the way different cell membranes work with different chemicals that are found in the creature's body that aren't found in our body. He's making all these like correlations, and everybody's like, either this guy is the best science fiction writer of all time,
He's
or
L.
he's
Ron
telling
Hubbard.
the truth. Yeah, totally.
No, or it's some like 15-year-old using ChatGPT in his basement.
Which it could have been,
Right.
but it was a trip. It was pretty cool. Yeah.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
the thing with this era we're living in, with access to information and the internet. It's so hard to know like what's real and what's fake. But there's so many interviews now with these former military officials and Air Force pilots, and it's just the amount of information on this topic. It's like you have to be living under a rock to like not see that there's something here that's emerging
And you have to be hit in the head with a rock to just not to think that it's all bullshit.
I agree.
Yeah,
for sure. No, there's but it's interesting to see over the last like even just 5 years this topic has finally become legitimized.
And you see the correlation between this topic gaining traction and the psychedelic renaissance that we're in. And there's also a correlation there in a third lane, which is people's movement toward independence from big societal systems that we've been kind of tethered to for so long, whether it's food or big pharma or whatever. And they're all kind of rising at the same time, and it's really interesting, and it's I'm very excited to see where it goes. Hopefully the planet doesn't explode before we figure out the culmination of all these three things. But to see the rise in reporting, in public interest in the UFO topic, simultaneous to the rise in the psychedelic movement and psychedelics being used for literal human progression, helping people become. I talked to Rick Doblin from Maps a while back, and he told me that the ultimate goal is to lower the level of trauma around the world, like lower the world's trauma. They're trying to work on a metric to quantify the amount of trauma in the world so that they could then measure it over time and try to lower that. So, and that's new, that's, so as these things rise together, I think it's, I'm just excited about it.
Yeah.
I'm stoked for it. I love seeing it. And I hope more people jump on board to both of those lanes.
100%.
Or all three. Yeah.
I mean, lowering trauma that directly would impact lowering violence. I feel like it's trauma that creates such crazy, erratic, violent behavior. It's all just suppressed trauma that hasn't been dealt with, it hasn't been looked at, it hasn't been nourished, healed, loved. Like, are they doing that through specifically psychedelic therapy? That's
a big part.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
That's a big part. Yeah. And the FDA just rejected MDMA for therapeutic use because the FDA is fucking corrupt as shit. And it's tough to fight corruption when it's that deep.
Yeah.
And they had their reasons, like the studies were not done in a way, and but the evidence for I get pretty fired up about this because there's an organization called VETS, VETS, stands for Veterans Exploring Treatment Solutions. It's an awesome organization based out of San Diego. They raise money to send veterans with PTSD overseas for psychedelic assisted therapy, ayahuasca, 5-MeO DMT, ibogaine. They're at the forefront, along with MAPS, in pushing alternative modes of healing forward that have had like an insane benefit on people's lives. The rate at which people report a significant positive shift is over 99% with vets specifically. It gives me a lot of faith. In the direction that society is moving. But there's always going to be roadblocks, and there's always going to be institutions that put up a fight because dollar signs are bigger than human happiness to them. So, I think we're on our way, and I think we're moving at a good pace. Yeah. And my goal is just to help people laugh along the way.
Laughter is actually healing. It really is. You're a healer.
I am. I've been called a shaman.
You're a laughter healer. You are. Wow.
In a way, it's kind of fun. I look at shows like Ceremonies now.
Yeah.
Because there's a room full of people that are there to laugh, and you don't know how many people in there are coming from the worst day, the worst week, the worst month, the worst year of their lives, and their one goal is to leave happier than they were when they came in, and that's my goal, to help facilitate that. Yeah.
Wow. Do you set intention before the ceremony?
I do. Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
You really are living out your videos.
Dude, you want to hear a spiritual story?
Yes.
So I don't know if you knew I had this tattoo here on my arm, right? It's a little smiley face. So about maybe a year ago, me and my girlfriend were having a really rough couple of weeks. Like, it was bad. It was bad. Not with each other, but just in life. There were health issues, big time. There were family issues, big time. There was a dog situation, family dog, sad situation. Car trouble, financial issues, career stresses. And it just kept piling up to the point where every day we were like, what the fuck? What are we doing wrong here in life? Like, why are we getting pummeled, which I'm sure is a shared experience for a lot of people out there. So we decided to get a little witchy, and we wrote down everything that was going wrong on a piece of paper. We passed the pen back and forth. I think we got up to like 30 solid things. It was nuts how many things were like really not good. We tore it all up. We said a prayer. We put it in a ceramic flower pot. We lit it on fire, right? And as all the embers burnt down on these torn up pieces of paper, it got down to like the last orange ashes in the pot. And the final ember, as the paper like kind of went down in sparks in that like orange glow, it all went to black, and then 3 orange lights shone up at us in the exact shape of this smiley face. Wow. It was 2 eyes and a little mouth.
Wow.
And it was just looking up at us. We were like, what? Did you see that? What the fuck? Did you see that? I saw that. Did you see that? And after that, things started getting smoother, and we were moving with more patience. But we just took that as a sign, Because, take signs when you see them. I take signs when I see them all the time.
Yes.
When it's 11:11 on the clock, I take that as a sign every single time, as you should. Okay?
When it's 3:33, 4:44.
100%. Take it as a sign. What is it a sign of? I don't know. Make it up. But at the time, the smiley face was like, it was shining up through these burned dark ashes, and it was such a cool metaphor to take. So I got it tatted. Yeah.
That is so cool. I love a good witchy story like that. I'm very witchy.
Uh-huh.
I mean, look at my nails.
Yeah.
I just did a ceremony on Friday with some of my best girlfriends here.
Cool.
This is a witchy night. And it was just like, this is healing. Like, this is exactly the kind of Friday night that I want. This is actually supporting me so much and nourishing me so much to be able to just come to this space and just be and just breathe and be together. And we were telling stories about the rose lineage and poetry. It was funny, it was silly, it was also cuddly and expressive, and I feel like creating those intentional containers to just be and to just express and like to come with what you're holding and to let it burn in the fire or to just release it. It's just, it really energetically shifts what's happening in our lives. And I think it's such a beautiful thing to take that ceremonial space and that time out of like the rush of the day to day.
It's necessary.
It's necessary.
It's totally necessary to create space between movement,
Yeah. And as a creative, creating that space is so necessary.
Yeah.
You need that time to just let your brain just go. And so I'm sure, is that part of your process? Like creating that intentional boredom or spaciousness?
Yeah. And that started when I was a kid, going back to how I was raised. I was raised without video games. I was raised with like books and a basketball and a bike. And those were my three like things. I would bike around the bike path with friends. I would play basketball outside, and I would have a stack of books next to my bed. So my brain was always given ways to drift off, to just be in some type of flow state as a young child. And so today I try to replicate that a lot. So I try not to go on my phone as much as I can. I still need to, because I need to know what's going on in the world, and that's where my office is. But yeah, to kind of try to enhance different creative intentions that I have, I will allow myself to just kind of be bored.
Yeah.
Like I'll go on a run without music, or I'll sit in the sauna for an hour.
I've got some of my best ideas running.
Yeah.
Running is so incredible. I can relate to that kind of childhood. I had a mom that didn't allow video games, and at one point we weren't allowed to have cable TV, so it was just like PBS or whatever, and she would just force us to go outside. And I feel like that era of growing up, like I feel lucky and grateful that I experienced that pocket of time where kids didn't have phones. And our generation kind of went through that transition of technology, and we are, in a way, I feel like this responsibility to steward this technology for the next generation, and like to understand how to use it for the highest good, how to have a good relationship with it, how to stay balanced, how to manage your mental health with these devices, and then to teach our kids how to do that. And it's this weird like responsibility that I feel in a way. And it's something that like I think all of us are navigating, and is even challenging for somebody that like isn't trying to be an intentional conscious person. It's still like bombards your brain, these devices. So then I'm like, how are these kids like even managing this? And so I'm curious, like, what is your relationship like with your phone, social media? How do you think about that, and how do you think we can steward this technology in a better way?
I think social media has made life better more than it's made life worse. I might be a naive optimist there, but I do think that's the case. I think it's created career opportunities and communication opportunities that have made the world better in more ways than one. And I also think it's been a huge detriment to mental health, and a huge problem, especially for younger people who don't know a world without that stuff. I grew up like all the way through college pretty much without anything. Through college, for me, was Instagram posting a photo with filters. And it was not the rat race of follows and likes that it is now. The term influencer was like barely a thing my senior year of college. No one gave a shit in high school how many followers you had. All you cared about was if you're in Tyler's top 6 on MySpace. And I was, even though he dropped me to 4, which was fucked up. After I paid for his Chipotle like 3 days in a row,
Wow,
dude.
Tyler.
It's fucked up,
Come on,
dude.
fucked
It's messed
up.
up. Respond to the Venmo.
What was your first MySpace song? Do you remember?
That's a good question. Dude, it was probably like Ocean Avenue by Yellow Card. You remember that? Do you know that song?
I'm like racking
You know that
my
song?
brain.
There's a place on Ocean Avenue where I used to dunk and know you.
Okay.
If it's all thinking we felt all right.
Do I ask because nice. We'll insert it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I had to hit the note.
Yeah, exactly. You had to hit that
Yeah.
one part. Okay. Yeah, mine was Our Song by Taylor Swift.
Oh,
I
fun.
specifically remember when Taylor was just popping off.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was so nervous because I knew my parents would never allow me to have MySpace that I like made a joint MySpace with my 3 friends just so in case they found out I would be like, oh, well, Catherine and Celia, like it's not mine, you know? But yeah, it's crazy. Like to think back on Facebook was like a thing when I was in high school. It was just becoming a thing. But I agree with you on the sentiment that I truly feel it's like a gift to humanity. I would never be able to live the life I'm living without this.
Yeah, I think it's a gift if people treat it like a gift.
Yes.
And I think it's a weapon if people treat it like a weapon. And I think a lot of people treat it like a weapon. I think a lot of institutions treat it like a weapon, trying to monopolize people's information and trying to make money over anything, like by any means necessary, even at the expense of people's mental health. But it can be a gift and it can be a real tool. So, the day I have kids, it's going to be in moderation, right? I kind of want to give my kids a brick phone or a razor or something just for texts and calls until they're teenagers. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know. And I don't know how to steward it. Right. I don't know. But I'm going to try my best. I don't go on social media until my morning has officially begun. There's about a 20-ish minute period, 20 to 30 minutes after I wake up where I have like my routine and I'm getting my brain ready for the day and my body ready for the day. And then I check in on the world after I've checked in on myself, right? So that's like a conscious practice, but it's a balance, and I call myself out during the day if I do that thing that people do where you go on Instagram, you scroll a little bit, you look at someone's story, and then you look at your story to see how many people looked at your story, and then you close Instagram, and then you open Twitter, and then immediately close Twitter, and then immediately open Instagram, and then look at your story to see how many people, and you're like, I call myself out for that. Even out loud, I'll be like, hey, what the fuck are you doing? You just looked at this 10 seconds ago.
Like, call yourself out loud.
Yeah.
Like, you have to do, because it's like happening in your head. You're like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
But I think the out loud
I say it out loud because I'm psychotic. And I'll be like, bro, what are you doing, bro? What are you doing?
Well, they say that intelligent people talk to themselves, like out loud.
Oh, okay, that's nice.
Yeah, so
intelligent people and serial killers. I've never done a murder, and I don't want to, so I'll keep the first one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do that, and I just try to stay mindful of it, because I try to learn from it, and I try to grow from it, and I try not to use it as my primary source of entertainment. That's kind of my goal. I find my primary source of like media entertainment is TV and movies. I'm a huge TV and movie guy. I want to make TV and movies long into the future. So that's where I get like my primary entertainment. And if I can compartmentalize using social media to grow by posting videos, connecting with people, communicating with people, or to learn, consuming content that helps me actually become a better person or smarter about different topics, then that makes me feel like I'm kind of using it as a tool rather than something negative.
How do you deal with, while you're putting yourself out there, the negative criticism that you receive, any backlash? I know in comedy it's like this weird time where it should be a safe space, but we're not in a safe space on the internet. It's like you get attacked for anything. Yeah. So what's your experience with that?
Whenever I get a mean comment, I thank them for helping boost the algorithm by commenting.
Yes, thank you. Keep
I say
commenting.
thank you. I say, yo, please comment again for the algorithm.
Yeah.
Please. Even if they say something that's like so absurd and wrong, I'll just be like, yo, thank you. Keep me humble, please. Thank you. Like literally, that's what I say, and that's what I do, because there's no point in engaging. There's no good can come from engaging with somebody in like a political conversation in the comment section. Or even on some of my spiritual videos, there was this dude who was leaving like super long paragraphs of why my comedy toward the spiritual space is bad because it discourages people from exploring spirituality. And I was like, hey, in my mind, I was like, bro, you're the guy I'm mocking.
Yeah.
Do you not see that you are on a pedestal made of your own shit? You're the guy.
You're the problem.
You're the issue.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to engage in that in a comment section because it's void of all context and nuance and physical communication and tone. So instead, I'm just like, hey, man, thanks for writing. Or I don't think I even responded to that one. I think somebody else did. But yeah, I don't engage in detail. But I do find it funny when people like are the thing and like have this complete lack of awareness, you know?
The spiritual elitism is a very big thing, the issue that circulates. I made a video on my channel called The Dark Side of Spirituality, and that was one of my 5 on the list of the top 5 things. I felt like that spiritual elitism or arrogance that can come in, the ego can come in and just think, oh, I'm awakened, I'm conscious, so I am therefore better than others. And that is just like a complete it's completely against what awakening consciousness mentality is actually about, which is like, oh, we are all just living this human experience on equal footing, trying to navigate this world, this crazy reality.
And especially in this spiritual space, as people are on their own journeys with spirituality. And I think it's pretty, in my opinion, it's pretty obvious to tell when somebody is speaking from a place of egoic, like elitism or moral superiority, and when they're not, you know. And that the video I made was not. It was pretty clear. It was just silly. It wasn't like mocking the spiritual community for all, like generalizing them for being dumb. It was just one instance that I'm playing on. So everybody, and even that guy like is on his own journey, right? And that's part of the reason I didn't engage or talk back, is because maybe he's young, maybe he's new himself, maybe he's going through a transformation where 5 to 10 years from now, he's going to look back on that moment and be like, wow, I definitely went a little hard back then. I did not need to do, you know what I mean? So
I was definitely a tryhard. I look back at myself and I'm like, I was the biggest hardo tryhard. Like, oh God, girl, chill out. Like, thank God we're past that, but we're still evolving.
But you needed that moment in order to get to where you are, or where you want to become.
So it's having compassion with where people are at.
Yeah, and empathy for the process 100%. That people are on. Because I don't fucking know what's going on.
Yeah, you don't know.
I'm trying to figure shit out, just like he is, just like you are, just like everybody else. I don't know spirituality. I know my own, and I'm learning more and more. But even people that like talk down and have that elitism, I think it's nice to just remember that they're on their own path too. And while yes, maybe they shouldn't be talking down as much, you know, hold on to the faith that they will grow into a space where they recognize that that type of behavior is totally unnecessary
and toxic for their life. Having that humility of recognizing that, wow, I am basically a teeny tiny ant on this planet. In the grand scheme of the universe, I'm a grain of salt, and that I'm seeing reality from this very narrow, limited perspective of 1 out of 8 billion people on the planet and all the different life experiences you could possibly have. To have the humility to say, oh, maybe I'm not right about this. Maybe like I'm totally wrong, and that's okay. But that shouldn't stop you from expressing yourself and sharing your truth. Like, we have to have these different perspectives to create balance in this experience of life. We have to have all of us coming to the table and listening to each other and having different perspectives. It's part of the duality of Earth as a realm. I always wonder, like, well, where are we evolving to? Like, where is Earth on a trajectory of a specific evolution, a specific like end game, you know, or we're just like winging it, you know? What's your perspective?
Dude, maybe we're gonna become the aliens.
I think
Maybe, you know?
that is the theory that I actually resonate with, is that they are us in the future. They're
Yeah.
coming back to learn something
Like
about
the
human.
far future.
No, legit.
Yeah.
Like that's actually what I really resonate with, is that the evolutionary theory that these gray aliens, they are us evolved. They would have maybe succumbed to the dangers of technology. They have big eyes. They've lost their souls. They have weak bodies with massive brains. They're very advanced technologically, but they have lost some type of love or the human soul, and they're coming back to try and retrieve that. Like that theory to me checks out.
It's a cool theory.
I could be totally wrong. But
Well, also there's another theory about the gray aliens, that they're kind of just the worker bees. They're not the actual intelligent beings. They are doing the bidding of a higher species. Now, could we be that higher species? Could that higher species be us? I don't know. As far as the evolution of Earth, I think we need to get off the planet pretty soon. I'm on team Elon for sure. I think we need to get to Mars and then Titan and then out of the solar system ASAP. I don't know where
But
the Earth is
that
heading.
theory, I will say, we need to get off the Earth does make me sad.
Yeah.
Because I love Earth.
I love Earth too.
I love it.
I don't think we need to all leave Earth, but I think we need a population elsewhere in
Yeah.
case some shit goes down, because we've been so lucky on this planet to not have like some crazy cosmic event like a solar flare, an asteroid, some type of impact. We are way overdue for that shit.
Well,
If
that
you look
has
at the-
happened.
It has, yeah. If you look at the cosmic calendar
Right.
of events like that, we're super past the average amount of time that goes by without something devastating happening.
So it could pretty much happen any second.
Oh yeah,
Right.
And we're not equipped to
No.
deal with it. So I think we got to get off for that reason, just to continue the species. But hopefully technology moves us into a space where we create some type of transportation method that can take us to a new planet, a new one like Earth, and have like another shot. You know,
I'm
give us
like,
another shot.
can we just not fuck it up here though? Because I love it.
I hope we don't fuck it up.
I love it.
I want to
so
have
much.
faith.
You
but-
look around, or if you just go, like, it is mind blowing to me how magnificent this planet is.
Yeah.
Like, it moves me to
Yeah.
go into nature and be like, the trees, the sun, the stars, the moon, the desert, the
Yeah.
mountains,
Yeah.
whoa, like, it's this amazing playground of reality. It's magnificent, it's gorgeous, and I love her. I love Pachamama.
Same. Yeah.
You know, I want to
it's-
cherish that, and
Yeah.
how do we stay here? You know.
I don't know. I think
We're trying to figure out some big problems
big issues,
here, and I
yeah.
don't think this is.
Elon's on the right track,
yeah.
but so is
Keep
everybody
going,
that's trying to save the planet too.
Yeah.
But yeah, Earth is a beautiful place, and I really wish more people had a connection to it, or were trying to foster a connection to nature and Earth, because I think that's a big part of what's missing in the human psyche today.
100%. I think we're being the primal nature of who we are is calling us back to that. It really, I think it is part of our evolution. I like to believe that.
I also think it's part of our evolution to adventure.
100%.
And so that's why leaving the planet is totally in alignment with creating a deeper relationship with the planet. I think both of those things can be true. You know, they're not.
It's a yes and.
It is a yes and.
Coming back to
It's a
improv
yes and.
theory.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those two things are not untethered. Yeah.
Beautiful. I am curious, out of your many years of experience, creating this life where you're getting to share these stories and these characters, and you're creatively expressing and making videos that people like me really deeply appreciate. I love your videos. Thank you so much.
Oh my God, thanks for
they're
receiving.
really
Cool.
They just speak to my soul, because
Right
I
on.
am so many of the characters as well.
Yeah.
That you
Cool.
showcase.
Cool.
So I would ask you, what's the top lesson that you've learned from these years of experience you've had?
How fluid life can move for you when you're prioritizing joy above all else. following this path is not easy. It's not financially awesome. It's not physically great. I travel a ton. It's tough. There's a lot of hard things about being an independent creator, but there's a lot of hard things about being any job that anybody has that's listening to this has a lot of hard things that are very similar to that. For me, what outweighs those challenges day to day is the drive that comes from connecting to a purpose that I have. And that purpose for me really is joy, and to put as much joy energy into the world as I can, whether it's through a podcast or a quick joke or a meeting or a picture on my story or a show or a video or whatever it is. Any opportunity I have to add a little bit of joy, it outweighs any challenge or negative experience that I've had through the day. So that's been kind of the biggest lesson. And life just tends to flow more, I think, when I let it, in my experience, when I let life flow and I'm not trying to force things, and I'm moving with ease as much I can, and I'm following signs. If somebody wants to do something different, most of the time I'll be like, all right, cool, yeah, great, let's do that. Especially lately. This has been like a lately type shift. Life's more fun when you're trying to control shit less.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm really on that vibe too recently. Just like letting go more, surrendering more to the flow, just letting it be easy. So
and that's not, and it's important to note, I think that's not in a way that's lazy.
Yes.
That's not in a way that, is the cliche of the hippie who's just like, I'm going to flow through life, man. There's people like that, but they survive on bark and live at music festivals 6 months out of the year, and then they go hibernate underground for the other 6 months. And that's fine. I respect that lifestyle. But moving with ease and allowing things to flow for you, it doesn't mean any less work ethic. It's just a mental shift.
100%. Yeah, you can still be putting in the same amount of energy, effort towards what you want to create, and not have the craziness, not have the neurotic stress that's creating unnecessary roadblocks for you.
In a way, you're putting in more effort, I think, because you're not just giving in to the constant din of society's pressures to achieve the next thing, get the next opportunity, compare yourself to this person who's also in your field, and why aren't you doing better than them? It's easy to give into that stuff. What's hard is to overcome that stuff and create a new way of thinking. So to me, you're actually trying harder when you're trying to move through life in a flow state and flowing with what comes, because you're not giving in to all that stuff.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for all the joy that you share.
Thanks for
work.
Receiving it.
I really
appreciate you.
It really brings me joy.
Cool.
So thank
Much more
you.
to come.
Yes. Thanks for coming on the show, Brent.
Thanks for having me. And I must say, I love what you're wearing. You look like Little Red Riding Hood grew up and started selling mushrooms in a field. And
I love this.
This is you now.
Amazing.
And it's dope. You're
amazing.
it.
I will embody the archetype of the Little Red Riding Hood mushroom seller.
You grow.
Yeah, I grow.
Little Red Riding Hood.
Wait.
What's the one?
Wait.
She carries mushrooms around in her basket.
Did you see this?
Is it a hood? Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah, dude.
I am her.
You are she. Yeah.
She is me.
Easy